Okay, so you want to run a buffet, build the food station, stock the trays, charge one flat price at the door, and let people eat as much as they want. But here's the part nobody tells you. Buffets only work because the average customer eats far less than the maximum they could. A few diners will make repeated trips for the expensive food, but most fill up quickly on cheaper items and leave after one or two plates. The price at the door may promise unlimited food, but the restaurant's numbers rely on most people never getting close to that limit. And yet, Golden Corral, the largest buffet chain in America, went from 490 locations before the pandemic to roughly 305 by 2021, a collapse of nearly 40% of its entire footprint in less than 2 years. In 2024, Red Lobster launched an all-you-can-eat shrimp promotion, lost $11 million in a single quarter, and filed for bankruptcy. In 2025 and 2026, new Golden Corral franchise bankruptcies kept appearing in federal court filings, some operators filing twice. That contradiction is what makes the buffet business so interesting. The model can be highly profitable when everything is controlled, but a small change in food prices, customer numbers, or eating habits can quickly turn it into a financial disaster. Buffets come in 3 sizes, and they're 3 completely different businesses. A small independent buffet, the kind of family-owned Chinese or Indian all-you-can-eat spot that anchors a strip mall, costs between $175,000 and $400,000 to open. Lower overhead, simpler food program, often owner-operated with family labor keeping the payroll tight. These are the most common independent buffets in the country, and for good reason. They represent the version of this business where the economics are actually manageable for a single operator. A full-service mid-sized buffet, the kind with multiple cuisine stations, a carved meat section, a dedicated dessert bar, and seating for 100 or more, runs $400,000 to over $600,000 before working capital. You need commercial hot holding stations, cold bars that keep food at safe temperatures for hours, a kitchen capable of producing enormous quantities simultaneously, and enough square footage that the buffet line doesn't back up into the dining room at peak hours. And then there's the franchise model. The Golden Corral franchise is a multi-million-dollar commitment between the fee, the build-out, the equipment, and the capital buffer before the first customer walks through the door. One of the least obvious expenses is keeping the buffet looking full. Customers expect every tray to be stocked, even late in the evening, so kitchens have to prepare food before they know whether anyone will eat it. Some of that food will inevitably be thrown away once it has sat out too long. For a buffet, that waste is not simply poor planning, it's part of maintaining the sense of abundance customers paid for. A $25 dinner does not mean the restaurant expects every customer to eat $25 worth of food. Most will consume perhaps $8 to $12 at the restaurant's cost, while a smaller number eat considerably more. Across hundreds of customers, the lighter eaters cover the heavier ones. Buffets also save on front-of-the-house labor because customers serve themselves. There are fewer orders to take, fewer plates to carry, and fewer tables requiring constant attention. When food waste and staffing are tightly controlled, those savings can leave the restaurant with a healthy margin. The difficulty is keeping both of those costs under control every day. The buffet line itself is designed to make the cheaper food the easiest food to take. Smaller plates restrict how much fits on each trip, while rice, pasta, bread, and potatoes are usually placed before the meat and seafood. By the time customers reach the expensive items, much of their plate is already full. Even the serving utensils help. Pasta gets the large spoon, while shrimp gets the smaller one. Drinks provide another source of profit. Fountain soda costs very little to serve, but is often sold separately for several dollars. The buffet therefore does not need to prevent customers from eating expensive food. It only needs the cheaper options to be earlier, easier, and more generous. The pandemic was the most obvious shock. Self-service dining was restricted across the United States, leaving buffet chains unable to offer the product their restaurants had been built around. Golden Corral lost a large part of its estate, while major franchisees entered bankruptcy carrying tens of millions of dollars in debt. Even after restrictions were lifted, the economics had changed. Food and labor were more expensive, but buffets could not raise prices quietly across dozens of menu items. They had one highly visible entrance price, and regular customers knew exactly what it used to be. Once a $12.99 lunch becomes $18.99, the value proposition feels very different, especially when takeaway and delivery provide more convenient alternatives. GLP-1 drugs create a newer problem. People taking medications such as Ozempic and Wegovy generally eat less, which sounds beneficial for a buffet, but someone with a much smaller appetite is also less likely to pay a premium for unlimited food in the first place. The buffet may spend less feeding them, but it first has to convince them to walk through the door. Red Lobster showed what happens when the unlimited item is both expensive and highly desirable. Endless Shrimp had previously worked as a temporary promotion, but in 2023, the company made it permanent. Customers naturally concentrated on the shrimp rather than filling up on cheaper sides. The promotion increased traffic, but the additional sales were not enough to cover what people ate, contributing to an $11 million loss in one quarter. That doesn't mean every unlimited offer is doomed. It means the restaurant has to be confident that most customers will stop eating before the cost of food overtakes the price they paid. That calculation is much easier with rice, bread, and soft-serve ice cream than it is with shrimp. Two scenarios, real numbers. Scenario 1, a small owner-operated buffet in a suburban market. The startup costs between $175,000 and $400,000. The owner is in the building every day, controlling the food program, managing the line placement, and watching the tray rotation. Revenue in a well-trafficked location can run $40,000 to $80,000 a month. Food costs held between 32% and 38%. Labor at 20% to 25% because the owner's hours aren't a separate line item. Net margin between 8% and 15% in a good year, with $40,000 to $100,000 annually in real profit. This is where the buffet model still makes the most sense. The owner's close enough to notice which trays are being wasted, which dishes customers avoid, and when staffing can be reduced. That may explain why a local Chinese buffet can remain in the same strip mall for 15 years while much larger operators struggle. It never needed hundreds of locations. It only needed one profitable one. Scenario 2, a franchise buffet in a mid-sized American city. Multi-million-dollar startup, multiple employees on shift across the kitchen, the floor, and the service stations, a franchise royalty on top of operating costs. The food program is locked into a corporate standard that can't be adjusted when one protein gets too expensive. Revenue potential is higher at $150,000 to $300,000 a month for a busy location, but so is every single cost. Even at $2 million in annual revenue, a 5 to 8% margin leaves only $100,000 to $160,000 in profit. That's not much of a return on a multi-million-dollar investment, especially when one rise in meat prices or drop in customer traffic can remove most of it. The franchise earns more money than the independent buffet, but it also has far less room for anything to go wrong. The Golden Corral franchisee that filed for bankruptcy in Texas in June 2026 was doing it for the second time after its first filing in February 2025 was dismissed, listing $100,000 to $500,000 in assets against $1 million to $10 million in liabilities. A business that charges people to eat as much as they want, ending up with 10 times more debt than assets. And that's a strange thing about the buffet business. From the customer side, it looks like a simple promise. Pay once and eat whatever you want. Behind the scenes though, almost every detail depends on limits like the size of the plate, the order of the food, the cost of each tray, and how quickly the average person gets full. When those limits hold, the model can work incredibly well. When food prices rise, customers stop coming, or one expensive item becomes too popular, the entire calculation starts to fall apart. A buffet does not make money because people can eat without limits. It makes money because in reality, almost nobody does.